Greetings and salutations. It's Thursday. That means just one thing. The ABC of CBD. No, I got to apologize straight away. I woke up this morning, which is always a good start, quite frankly, but I woke up this morning with a streaming cold. So there you go. Anyway.
Still sounds fantastic.
You're not wrong. Anyway, so as always, we hand over to our host with the most, the man who has taught me so much in the last, I've lost track of how many weeks, Mr. Ollie Mammon.
What's up, guys? How you doing? Welcome to I think it's episode 16 or 17.
I think it's 7. It might be 17.
17, 18.
Sure.
I don't even know
no,
anymore.
It's not 18.
If you give me 2 seconds, I can actually let you know. We are episode
17.
17. 17. Mental. Wow, that's mental. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us. Our guest today is Tinine Montgomery. We're bringing her in to discuss recent changes post-Brexit. We're going to play the advert quickly, and then we can move straight in with the show. A lot of talking today, guys, so hopefully
I prefer if you play the advert slowly.
I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD. A product created by users for users. A product at an affordable price, available everywhere, at any time, at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil. No additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service. The cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price.
I was drumming along there, to be honest. It's such a catchy tune. I've just got to say, before Ollie kicks off with his very special guest, who is great, by the way, great. I think this is going to be quite an explosive and quite an emotive episode. And by the way, Mr. Ollie Mammon, so many people at the moment, especially on social media, we see, some we know, some we only know digitally, are suffering horrendously from anxiety. And so, you know, Ollie, I have pushed as many as I can towards you and towards the Tincture Club, mentioning, of course, they get a discount the moment they mention Men's Radio Station, etc. All the details are on your screen there. But, you know, speaking as one who knew nothing about CBD oil 17 weeks ago, and Ollie and his amazing guests have taught me more than I ever dreamt I could know, I do thoroughly recommend it. That's all I can say. And Ollie is the best ambassador for a brand, and I've been in this game a long time, but the best, most passionate, the most knowledgeable ambassador I have come across in decades. Over to you, Mr. Oliver Mammon.
Yeah, it's very important. Look, guys, if you are suffering, feel free to reach out, okay? I'm not saying CBD is for everyone, but I am saying there's no harm in trying it. And, you know, the Tincture Club is a very affordable product. If you have another brand who you believe you should be affiliated to, then use them. But still try CBD, whether it's my product or someone else's. If you suffer from anxiety, it could be a very, very, very simple fix to a very devastating consuming issue, which which you carry all day long. So, I mean, if it's one of those things which you haven't tried yet, as an anxiety sufferer, I really would suggest it. And like I said, whether it's my product, the Tincture Club, or another product out there on the market which you have confidence in, it's the most important point. You have to have confidence in the product you're buying. I suggest you give it a go. Like I said, don't know if it's going to work for you, but it's worked for so many other people. The chances are it probably will. But yeah, on with the show. Now, everyone's heard of a little thing called Brexit, okay? It's a tiny little... what's it called? It's this little bit of information which has been kind of going around a little bit. Basically, we're now no longer in Europe, which is mental, okay?
Hang on. They haven't attached chains and dragged us out to the Antarctic. We're still in Europe. We're just not part of their EU.
So it's like almost you've just been made the black sheep of your family. So yes, you're still in your family, but you're not allowed at dinners anymore, weddings, birthdays, other social gatherings, other emotional gatherings. You're not allowed there, but you're still part of the family. So we are now that black sheep. We're all in this together, which is great. And there have been some recent issues which have kind of emerged from this. Now, Tanine Montgomery was our guest, I feel like, about 10 weeks ago. She came on, she told the story of her daughter, Indy, who suffers from epilepsy, the journey she's gone on with her daughter, the fact that she moved out to Holland to get her daughter onto a prescription, and in more recent years, she managed to secure that prescription in the UK for her daughter. Now, I'm sure a lot of people who are in the know would have seen a lot of media coverage over the last 3 weeks about a lot of kids who get there and a lot of parents who get this medicine from European sources have been prevented from getting this medication. So there's one of the brands which is well known, is a brand called Bedrolite. It's a product which a lot of epileptic mothers and a lot of epileptic children use. It's got a very big following in the UK, and it has fantastic results for a lot of patients who it has fantastic results for. This product, over the last 3 weeks, there's been restrictions in distribution of this product and restrictions in the export of this product to the UK, and a lot of UK patients were over the last 3 weeks left in the dark and told that their prescriptions will no longer be filled. So you have mothers like Tanine who have been relying on this product who have basically been cut off. So you know me, I love a little metaphor. So you're drowning, all right? You're drowning with your daughter, and nice ship comes along, throws you the lifeline, and they start the process of pulling you towards a ship, because you're never fully on board. You're just kind of, you're safe, but you're not completely safe. They haven't given you a cure. You're just kind of being pulled along by this boat, so you know that you're going to stay alive. And then the captain comes and just cuts the rope, and then you go floating off to sea again. So they've given you something which is saving you. They've thrown you the lifeline, and then it gets taken away. Now, Tanine is a lot more up to date on the situation. She actually told me just before the show, like moments before the show, that there's actually been a new revelation. So there is this issue, but it's being sorted, but not properly sorted. And the main issue is there seems to be this lack of consistency, and there is this lack of understanding for what these people are going through. The whole point of giving someone a lifeline and then taking it away is just sick and sadistic. I mean, it's just in any way, in any example, offering someone hope and then removing it is just messed up. And that's what a lot of parents and children are going through. So that's the aim for the show, is to kind of get into this subject a little bit more, to try and understand why in a legal system, because that's what we have in the UK. These are not illegally sourced products. They are legal, okay? Fully legal prescription products, why they're being restricted, and why parents are being, you could say, forced to jump through these moving hoops over and over and over again, and why they have to do it alone. I mean, it just doesn't sit right with me. Now, I would get it again if they were doing something illegal. I would understand, and I'd be like, this is not right. They're doing something illegal, and of course you're going to get caught when you're doing something illegal. But these are people who have fundraised in order to generate enough money to be able to pay the extortionate amounts for legal private prescriptions. They're doing everything which they have been told to do, and then they're getting cut off. So like without me carrying on talking about subjects I'm not actually that clued up on, I would like to bring on Tanine just to shine some more light on this episode. Brexit has taken our hope away.
Hey Russ, hey Oliver.
Hey Tanine,
Okay,
thank you so much for coming back onto Men's Radio Station. You were a sensation last time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Again. Twice.
I feel privileged.
And thank you for coming on such short notice as well.
And
thank you for coming on such short notice. I understand this is once again a very personal topic, and something. It's a struggle which you're still going through. It's not something which you've been through. So this is something which you're actually going through, and I want to really thank you for coming on and talking with us and educating us and helping us to see and understand a little bit more like what you actually go through and what, you know, your child goes through, and just, yeah, let's just talk, because it's, when I saw the articles at the start of January, I was a little bit like what? You know, it's some medicine, you know, every other medicine. The coronavirus vaccine, that comes from Germany, doesn't it? It comes from Bayer, which is a German company. Yeah. So that's here. That's been imported through Europe. So I mean, like, there's no issues getting other things through. Why is cannabis being targeted? Why is this all happening? So just give us a little bit of a breakdown, how this all kind of got landed on your lap. You know, you know, like how, because last time we had you on the show, Indy had a prescription. She was fine. It would cost a fortune, but she had access. What's happened?
Let's just go back to your analogy about your ship there with the lifeline. I think it's really important to go back to that. Actually, getting that ship to come along took absolute years of fight and pain from many families. And like you say, the hoops that we had to jump through to have access were ridiculous. So access has maybe been, you know, there more recently, but it's never been easy and it's never been straightforward. And it's a running game to keep up with the access. In fact, you know, 1 minute there's one doctor prescribing, the next minute that doctor's not prescribing. You need to change to another doctor who's prescribing, and you're running through a private sector of doctors that are prescribing, but their books are becoming full, and then they're knocking people off their books because they're full. And it's never been a clean, smooth access like the government have led people to believe. I often walk down the street and people say, oh, isn't it brilliant that Indy has access to her medication now? And people genuinely believe that access is easy, and we pick that prescription up from our local pharmacy and it's free and it's all brilliant. But the actual case is that it costs us a hell of a lot of money, and it costs a lot of money and the time in fundraising. And then the continuous hoops to keep yourself legal, like Ollie was just saying about these hoops that they put in place, where we need to now do this, and we need to now prove that, and we need to now do this.
Tanine,
so getting that.
Tanine, can I ask you just two questions for those who haven't had the pleasure of hearing you before? Question number one, just to give some sort of parameters, what sort of amount are we talking about to get your daughter's medicine?
The Bedrolite prescription is £160 for a 10 ml bottle. And that you depending on weight and how much a child needs, Indy was using around 2 bottles a week. So you're talking £320 a week, and she's 6 years old. So you can kind of guess the older they get, the more expensive it becomes, and it just becomes unreachable. And in this day and age.
Also, there's a tolerance build up as well. So it's not like with everything, like with every compound under the sun, human beings build up tolerances to those compounds. Now, the good thing about cannabinoids is every so often they're changing. It's never just one strict recipe. So there are changes, but like Dr. Callie Seaman said, those changes can sometimes be more detrimental than good anyway. So I mean, it's just an interesting one that the like immunity needs to come into it. A tolerance needs to come into the conversation as well. The older she gets, the more tolerant she gets. She could be on 5 bottles a week when she's 25 years old. Do you know what I mean? Which is 1,500 quid a week,
so
£6,500 a month.
Something I didn't understand, and help me out, because I'm sure I'm just acting as everyman here. You're saying that some of the doctors, the books, if you like, get full up, and so some people drop off their list. Why are the books not like a GP service where it's infinite?
Because there aren't enough doctors prescribing. We have a very small section of private doctors prescribing this. There are no NHS doctors prescribing this type of cannabis. So, doctors, I feel they're probably putting themselves out there to become a doctor that prescribes cannabis,
Are they getting, because this is so fundamental, are they getting nervous? They think, they're going to get a tap on the shoulder from the law? Are they too busy? Why are they, say, dropping some people off?
Obviously, I can't answer for them, but the conversation that I have had with one doctor was that she'd moved to a different clinic and was doing a different type of job. We've had other doctors that are genuinely full up. Their books are full up.
But I don't get this. Let me just cut in quickly. This is very important. So, any other medicine, all right, take any other medicine under the sun. I go to a private doctor. So I've gone to a private doctor recently for my Tourette's. I take some some meds which I've been taking since I was 7 years old, and similar thing. Now we're out of Europe. I used to get my medicine from Europe. I had to find a UK doctor to give me a prescription for a medicine I've been taking since I was 7, which I've never had a UK prescription for. And I basically went to see this doctor, and he was like, this is mental. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you're 32 years old. You've been on a medicine for 25 years. I can't just write you a prescription. I've got to do some tests. I've got to make sure that you haven't destroyed your liver. You haven't done this. You haven't done that. But what this doctor didn't do, he didn't tell me to leave his office. What he did do was he held me by the hand and he said, Ollie, this is going to cost you about £650 for your first visit to me. £150 for my time, £350 for a blood test, £200 for this, but you have to do it. He goes, I can't, I don't want you going to another doctor who's just going to write you a prescription. You have to do this. Why is it with cannabis, these doctors have put themselves forward to help, and then they've pulled themselves away? As in, like, isn't that just, as in, I can't imagine any doctor, any cancer patient, any arthritis patient, any patient for anything goes to a doctor. If the doctor turns around to him and says, sorry, mate, not helping you anymore, it just, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because obviously it's happened, but I don't understand how that can happen. And also, the doctor is only an employee of the clinic. How is the clinic not taking responsibility for what the doctor originally prescribed to you? I'm not saying you're in the wrong here, Tanine. I'm just saying it's ridiculous what they're doing to you, because no other medicine, no other conversation of any other medicinal compound would ever undergo this sort of change. It just, especially for a child, you've got a child who's sick.
I think I think that what we have to look at also is, when I obtained my prescriptions for India, it was a long time ago. The clinics, I believe, are a lot better now, and it is a slightly easier route to access than what I potentially did, and a few other people that did it a long time ago. When we went to get the first UK prescription, it was from a private hospital. There was nobody that guided me there. I sat and rang about 40 private hospitals on one day in the week, and I just sat and I rang and I rang and I rang, and I said, my daughter takes this medication. She's been prescribed it from Holland. She's been on this medication for 7 months. She's doing really well. The doctors are happy to continue it, but I need a UK prescription. Is there anyone that will prescribe it? And that was how I found a UK doctor to prescribe medicinal cannabis. So there is a lot better route of access now since then. However, since Brexit, obviously, we were then told, I was actually told by another parent whose child uses the Bedrolite products as well. I was told by them that the access was stopped because of Brexit, and that the UK prescriptions would no longer be able to be valid in Holland. So we've got that issue on top of, even if you could go to the pharmacy in Holland and pick it up, if we didn't have the COVID restrictions that we've got, you have to have a Dutch prescription to do that. So
because now we're out of Europe, an English prescription doesn't apply out there. Also, the fact that you don't have an import license for that product, so you can't bring it back into the country anyway yourself, can you? Exactly.
So, even if which Indy does have a Dutch prescription, that's how she obtained her first prescription. We went to Holland and we got a Dutch prescription. Mm-hmm. So that Dutch prescription is still on their system. But like you say, Ollie, if I was to get on a plane and go and pick that medication up, I'd break the law bringing it back into the UK. So the route of access for Indy has been completely, squashed. And it was told to me by another parent, basically, who had got information through, I believe, pharmacy that she was getting her Bedrocan from.
Now, what I want to ask is, so 31st of December, everything's cool, prescription's fine. 1st of January, you wake up after no one did anything on New Year's Eve this year, and obviously with no hangover and no, no glitter and no random post New Year's things which we can remember from past days of celebration, and everything's just screwed up. And it's not just you, it's every parent, right? So every parent for the last 3 weeks has been told, whether it's an NHS prescription or a private prescription, whether they used one of these old school doctors or whether they've gone through one of the new facilities, they were told that they couldn't get this Bedrolite anymore.
Yeah, what was basically, I assume, left in the country in pharmacies would be able to be distributed, but that would be on whoever's prescription had been put in. And that was it, really.
And then today there was some new news. Today new news came out.
So I believe Hannah Deacon has been working closely with the Department of Health because obviously her son Alfie takes the Bedrocan products, and his is on an NHS prescription. So it was quite shocking.
3 people in the UK, right?
Yeah. It was actually quite shocking to see that they hadn't just done it with the private sector, but they'd actually done it through the NHS sector. And like you say, Ollie, there's no issue with getting other drugs that come from other countries. So why has this been so overlooked? So yes, there's been some updates today from the Department of Health saying that they will extend the access. The Dutch government have agreed, and they will extend the access till the 1st of July to the patient. What does
that mean, though? Because does that mean you're now on a 6-month ticking time bomb? Or does that
they say they are working, they're working on trying to fix the problem for the future, but yeah, essentially that's a ticking time bomb.
But why put a time frame on it?
There's two ways to look at this: glass half full, glass half empty. First of all, I'm sitting here, Tanine, my stomach's in a knot listening to this story, because when you showed the video and everything last time, I've never forgotten it. It was so moving, and I think you are the most brilliant mother, if I'm allowed to say that these days without ending up on the front page of the Daily Star. Anyhow, this is what I was going to say. One, it gives them a breathe. First of all, it gives you a 6-month window. It gives them 6 months to get their acting gear and sort this out. And if you're an optimist, 6 months they should be able to do this, because what they can't do would be condemn people to illness, because that is utterly inhuman, And as I would say to you, anything that we can do on Men's Radio Station through all our various platforms, anything that we can do to help you and promote what you're trying to achieve, you only have to get hold of Ollie, and Ollie gets hold of me all the time. So that's our pleasure. And of course we would support you. But that is, at least you've got 6 months. It's like I'm sitting there going, oh, thank goodness for that.
I think what really needs to be done within this 6 months, though, is actually change the route of access for good, and actually, stop messing around with these children's lives. Stop it being on private prescriptions. Get it access to to them via the NHS, which is vitally important. I think also, Ollie, it would be really good to talk about the importance of the prescription, because whenever I talk or whenever I put posts up, I do get a lot of comments with, well, why don't you just go buy some CBD oil from a shop? Or why don't you grow your own? Or why don't you do this?
Ooh, we had that last week. Love to have. Oh, don't go there. 81-year-old blokes now having a court case.
And then Indy ends up without her mother and without her medicine. That's
but
definitely
it's more
the way
than
to
that.
go.
What it is also, I think it's just a real big shout out to them people that might be sitting at home thinking, well, you can buy CBD oil for £40 from this place, or you can grow cannabis and it's, not that difficult. So just wanted to put forward that basically the prescription is so much more than the oil itself. Okay, so Ollie will understand this point that we can.
1,000,000%, because fact of the matter is, so like me and Tanine were talking on the phone, why Bedrocan, why Bedrolite won't open a facility in the UK.
Right.
Why Bedrolite doesn't do a partnership with GW Pharmaceuticals, who has an ability to grow and process. Why they don't just bring their genetic here, their SOP, their standard operating procedure of how they grow and extract the product, which helps so many people. We concluded that basically it's a big conversation. The conclusion is the UK is not doing anything to empower itself and its prescriptions to its people. Okay, so all of the medical cannabis in the UK comes from elsewhere in the world. Everyone in the UK, except for GW Pharmaceuticals, who has a license to grow and cultivate cannabis in the UK, they're forced and confined to work under research purposes, and they have to destroy 90% of their crop at the end of the year. So I just had a conversation with this incredible dude we're having on the show in a few weeks' time.
Great.
The company is called Sativa Investment Fund. Now, I think Sativa Wellness Group. Sativa Wellness Group, they have a license to grow and cultivate cannabis in the UK for research purposes. They don't have a right to They've created a partnership with the university. They don't have a right to do anything with that product except grow it, extract it, and give it to the university. And every other process is so controlled. The disposal of the waste, of their product costs more than they could generate from their entire crop. So it's a money eating business. So basically it's just a money pit. Now what happens is if they were smart, what they could do, the British government, is say, we want you to go out there and form a relationship with Bedrocan. And what we want you to do is grow and produce Bedrocan, run it under the same SOPs, provide it to the NHS or a government authority who will pay you pennies on the pound, and we will supply it to the end user at £2 on the pound. And at least the government will make some money. It sounds really messed up. Tanine would rather have that, I would say you would rather be ripped off and know you have access than not be ripped off and not have access. It sounds really messed up. But I mean, like if you had to choose between being shafted and delivered or not shafted and not delivered, you're always going to choose to get screwed over and given what you need. It's like middle of the desert, you have a glass of water, I want it, and I got 50 million quid's worth of gold. Take my gold. It means nothing to me in the desert. I need that glass of water. Same thing applies. The UK government could empower itself and then also supply the people.
But I think what we really need to consider is, even if they did that, the pharmaceutical model in this country is so wrong that this is a massive issue. We have Epidiolex, which is a CBD isolate, for a reason. It's not because it's better than whole plant extract. It's because it's easy for them to bring a product that's a singular molecule to market. And from that point of view, the pharmaceutical industry needs to change the way it looks at medicine. This, in its whole plant form, is helping more children than in its isolate form. And so from that point of view, surely the pharmaceutical companies want to help people. So they should be looking at how we change the pharmaceutical industry as it is at the moment to allow a product like this.
Can I ask a really
stupid, of course. Go.
Stupid question? And I'm just acting as everyman here because I always want to bring our listeners and viewers along. And we're not experts like you two are. You, for unfortunate reasons, Tanine and Ollie, because it's his career. Is there no way, if you waved a magic wand, forget legislation for a second, just for a second, is there no way that you can say to somebody like Ollie, can you make me this up?
Yeah, there's an absolute way I can do that. One, it will be completely illegal, and Ollie giving it to me would be breaking the law. Two, if I'm to get caught giving that to my daughter, even if it mimics the prescription that she has identically, I can get arrested. I can get put in prison for that. My daughter could be taken away from me. Three, if I had, God forbid, anything happened to me and somebody had to look after Indy, somebody that wasn't a direct parent that was providing her with this oil illegally, she would end up in a care home, no doubt. She has no ability to look after herself, and the care home would not obtain illegal medication for her. So this is what I talk about, why the prescription is so important for my daughter's future. Ultimately, I'd like to think my daughter will live longer than me. I don't know whether she will or not. If she does, she will be looked after in a facility. And at the end of the day, I need to make sure that facility provides her with the only relief that she's had in the 6 years that she's been alive. So this is my argument with grow your own. If people are able to grow their own and that is what they want to do, I have no issue with that. That's a law issue. However, this is not good for me.
Tanine, there's number 4 as well.
So clearly.
There's number 4 as well. There are thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of different types of genetics. Okay, when I say genetics, it's like all people look different. All people are different. All cannabis plants are different. And if you have a trained eye, they look different. It's just people look at them differently. All right. And who was it a few weeks ago? We were talking about the minor cannabinoids. Okay, so we talk about CBD and THC and terpenes. I think it was Nadav Yao, and he was talking about minor cannabinoids and minor differences. And it's those minor differences, that little sprinkle of salt, that little touch of pepper, and the little sprinkle of chili, which makes your mum's spaghetti 10 times better than anyone else's, because it's those minor little additions which make her product work. So it's why from the very beginning of this show, even though I'm a CBD manufacturer, and even though I really do believe I make some of the best products in the UK, I've never actually told anyone to ever buy my stuff. I've told you to buy the right product for you, and you need to buy something that works for you. Now, fact of the matter is Tanine has found something that works for her kid. There are loads of other epileptic kids out there where, Bedrocan hasn't worked and Epidelex does work. There are epileptic kids out there who source their products from Israel and from Germany and from Canada, and who believe and rely on that extract from that specific crop and that specific plant. I can't recreate something that God made. All I can do is take something that God made and turn it into a product that someone can use in the best possible way. And that's what everyone needs to understand. This crop is not made by man. This crop was not designed by a human. It's naturally created itself to be what it is. And we can't replicate that, even if we have all of the ingredients under the sun, because there will always be something in there that we don't know about.
And also, if you go past that point, it's down to exactly what Ollie's saying there, but it's also down to extraction processes can be so varied, and that makes a huge difference to the effectiveness of the medication person to person. I, for instance, know that Indy had used isolate products before, and the isolate products made her autism quite bad.
I made you some stuff and it wasn't good for her. I remember a while back I made you some drops and stuff. I was like, look, just try it. Let's see what happens. It'll be good to know if it is a replacement. God forbid something does happen. And you were straight away like, this doesn't work for her and I don't want to play this game.
Lost, Ollie and Tanine. This is where I get so lost.
I can probably try and explain it in a way that I've tried to understand it.
I get lost, Tanine, with the ridiculous duality of the law. I don't understand because it's so blindingly obvious. You see, I'm still reeling, and I have no idea whether you watched it or not. When Ollie's guest was 81 years old, he's dying of kidney failure. Kidney
failure.
Dying of
Guy's hilarious. Failure. I love him. He was such a good guest. He was so great. He's so funny.
Love him. He's 81 years old. He's not some 17-year-old kid, right? 81. He's dying. He's been told he's dying of kidney failure. He then goes and grows some plants in his own garage, and because he was a botanist for his whole career, he turned it into oil, and it started to reverse the kidney failure. And his neighbour reported him to the police. And now,
well, that neighbour will not be getting a cup of sugar when they need it, will they?
I'll be honest, I wouldn't send him a Christmas card, but that's just
Can I say one thing? Tony would give him a cup of sugar. And guess Tony, what? When this dude, when his neighbour, when the lords of karma come down and strike down this neighbour, because they will, because the lords of karma are powerful. When they strike, he will ask Tony for help, and Tony will help him, because that's what Tony is. Tony says straight away on the show, I forgave my neighbor. I've forgiven him because he didn't know what he was doing. How can you be angry at someone who doesn't realize the damage they're causing to someone? The problem,
and this goes exactly back to
that's just
this goes back to the whole grow your own though. It takes one neighbour. I live on a housing estate, and the people that live around me are lovely, but it takes one neighbour to phone the police, and that's your child's medicine potentially for 3 months. You didn't anticipate it potentially to grow this cannabis and to extract it into oil in whatever method you were going to use to prevent your daughter's seizures. And there are people out there that do that, I'm sure. However, they're at risk of a neighbour reporting them and then losing that medication for a period of time until they can, regrow or get different access. So whatever way you look at it, whatever way people are trying to obtain cannabis as medicine, the access is shocking.
It's also crop loyalty. So crop loyalty is a big problem. So you have a grower who'll go and grow something. Okay, he doesn't know what he's going to grow. He thinks he's going to grow a specific genetic, but until the plant has actually bloomed and blossomed, you don't actually know. Genetics can sometimes mutate. There could be certain changes. You start off with a 1-to-1 THC to CBD genetic. You can end up with a 3-to-1 THC CBD if it's not grown correctly. Okay, or vice versa. So plants mutate. Now, what happens is you've gone out and you've put your heart and soul into growing this crop for 4 months to save your daughter's life. If it doesn't work, the chances are you're still going to carry on using it because you have crop loyalty, because you've just grown your crop. There's also the other fact that growing a cannabis plant is not the same as growing fruit and veg. One reason I've never grown a cannabis plant, as in I really wouldn't know what to do if you stuck me in a grow room. I've never done it because I never wanted that crop loyalty. I never wanted to sit there because I medicate for my mental reasons, you know, my Tourette's and my ADHD and my generalness. And my oddiness, exactly. You know, it's hard goddamn work being this mental, okay? And, you know, like I self-medicate, and if I grew something that was wrong for me, I'm still going to smoke it, which is kind of the worst thing in the world, which isn't
but
right.
You know that, and you can verbalize that, and you can understand that. We're talking about, you know, majority of the people that I'm talking about are children that have, you know, Indy's non-verbal. She cannot tell me if medicine makes her sick. She cannot tell me if she doesn't feel well or any, you know, there's nothing she can communicate with me. As adults, if somebody grows something and makes it into oil and takes it and it doesn't make them feel good, they know that. They probably know what they've done, you know? So this is why we need the consistency of having a product that's, you know, checked, grown in the same way. And we're talking about genetics changing and stuff. And if people are going to grow their own products, they, like Ollie was saying, they will become akin to their products, and they will actually know when something's changed in their cannabis plants because they'll probably be able to smell it. So I think there is a certain element of us that we do know what we need as adults, maybe, but we're talking about very sick children that need a consistent source of medication that doesn't change. And that is, you know, they have the access to it.
Naeem, can I be very intrusive? And you can tell me to get lost because that's how we operate Men's Radio Station. It's not the BBC where you're forced to give an answer.
You're forced to give an answer to me. I will force you to give an answer. I'm not forcing anyone for anything.
Has your daughter ever been able to communicate verbally with you at all?
Yeah, so basically in this condition, there is sort of like no end goal, and, you know, there's no goalposts. So you have some children like Indy who can talk. You have some who can't walk. Some are in wheelchairs. You have some that are fairly cognitively normal, maybe only a few years behind. So there is no goalpost. So Indy developed normally up until the age of about 2 years old. She was having seizures, but she was talking. She was very advanced. She was counting to 20 at about 1.5 years old. She was, you know, she was full of life, and, you know, she just had these seizures. So we were told for that period of time that she didn't actually have Dravet syndrome. We were told that she just had the G mutation and that she would have seizures, but she would continue to develop. And that's not what happened. In actual fact, we were on about the 7th anti-epileptic medication that she tried. We were going on holiday. I went to pick up her prescription. And then, so this happens not just with cannabis, this happens with a lot of medication. But I went to pick up her prescription and they didn't have the milligram dosage that she would normally take. They had a much higher milligram dosage. It was like 10 milligrams. She needed like 5. I said, I'll have to take them, and I'll have to cut them in half, because that's all I can do right now. So that's what we did. We took them and we was cutting them in half, but they were made by a different company. And so that even though they have the same active ingredients, they can disperse in the body differently dependent on what they've been mixed with. So we started giving Indy this, I can't remember what it was called, which will bug me, but, you know, this anti-epileptic medication over the course of this time. Her seizures became horrific over about 10 days. And she just slowly stopped talking. She became slurry. And so now Indy used to tell me she loved me. She used to talk. And now we have a child that we sort of guess what she wants. She doesn't have any sort of way of communicating. She still hugs. She still smiles. She still clearly loves people. And in actual fact, to her, she clearly loves life. I'm very proud of Indy. She attributes no anger or upset to her condition whatsoever, but she still attributes a lot of love and affection. I'm very proud of her and the things that she's had to suffer. But crucially, you know, if something helps your child, you will do whatever it takes. And once we had her on the cannabis, she didn't regain her speech, but she has regained some words. So she I say she's non-verbal, she can't communicate, but she'll walk around the house and she'll outburst with random words, which is quite nice to hear because she's normally quite excited when she does that. And so she does express herself, but yeah, she lost the ability to communicate when she was about 2.5.
I'm so
Damn.
sorry.
So I don't understand. This is another thing. Doctors are not idiots, all right? They're not. They're very smart people who study for 7 years, and they have an incredible ability to hold information in their minds. As in, doctors, as people, all right, you stick them in any subject and they will get first. That's the type of brains they have. You know, they have that ability to absorb information and practically apply it. How do they not absorb the information of epileptic meds mess up epileptic kids? I mean, how does that not stick at it? Like how many times does it have to happen before a doctor's like, maybe there's something wrong here? Because I'll be honest with you, if I was going around making people cups of tea and they were literally like shit happened when I make them a cup of tea, I would realize that, you know what, Ollie, there's something wrong. You know, there's something wrong with what I'm doing here. Do you know what I mean? There's something wrong in the process of me giving something to this person. They keep on passing out and like falling to pieces on me. What is like? There's obviously something not right here. Why are doctors not clicking? Why is it not clicking for them? As in, like
I think we have to be
so
fair,
difficult. Sorry.
I think we have to be fair and say that that's a lot more to do with what the pharmaceutical industry provide the doctors to give our children, and what the doctors' hands are tied to give our children.
No, but fine. But back onto what you're saying.
I appreciate what you're saying, because I have always said, when you're young and you say, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a doctor, I want to do this, I want to do that. If a child says they want to be a doctor, it's not because they want to work with a pharmaceutical company to peddle drugs.
Yeah, it's not because they want to
help people. But there becomes a line where you've been helping some people for 20 years, you've been providing some people with medication and it's been helping them. There's a sector of people that the medication doesn't help, about 25% of people that your medication is not helping, but you are helping 75% of people. And actually now you're this doctor, you're 4 children down the line and you have to support your 4 children. Airing that opinion of this medication isn't helping these kids, but this cannabis medication really helps these kids is a risky place to put yourself.
Never think of that. I never thought of that. I never thought of
so
what they have to
lose.
lose.
We have to be fairly fair to them as in their profession.
How come you can empathise with them, but they don't empathise with you? Do you not find
because
that a little bit?
I had a very good doctor, and if he was listening now, I'd love him to know that I thought he was a very good doctor. I actually wrote a formal complaint about him, but it wasn't directed at him and his personal dealings with Indy. It was reflected in the fact that he wouldn't do exactly that. He wouldn't stand and take a stand and say, but I know that this medicine's helping this child and I will put myself on the line for that. And so I had to empathise with him, otherwise I'd be purely angry. So I empathise with his situation, and I empathise with the fact that people don't want to get involved in a situation sometimes, and whether that's right or whether that's wrong. The doctor in question knows me very well. He knows that I wouldn't have not continued this. And I think he put his faith in the fact that Indy's mother and father would continue to move forward with what she needed.
So what's the plan for Indy now? As in, like, what's the plan for you and Indy now? As in, like, now, like, well, we have this 5-6 months, okay? And we say we because it's not, sounds really mean. It's not just you. It's everyone in this cannabis community who relies on what you rely on as well. So we, as a community, we now have 6 months. Now, you as a very educated and very driven individual in this industry, I'm very sorry to put the pressure on you, but you're my go-to epileptic mother. That's what you are. You're my go-to epileptic expert. I love the way your brain works. I've got so much respect for what you've done for your daughter, and I generally have respect for you as a product designer as well. And I love the way your brain works. Okay, we've had these chats many times. That's why I'm putting this pressure on you, because your brain works. Okay, so what do you think the plan is now? Where do we go from here? Like, what do we do? And it's not you, it's us. Like I said, we're in this together. I know you're not, but we are. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think we all, have to continue to push for the fact that these prescriptions, one, need to be accessible easily. And these prescriptions have to come from the NHS. There is no other way for me that I will settle until that prescription comes out of the NHS. And the reason for that is not because I want to drain the NHS, because actually Indy was blue lighted to hospital on a regular basis, costing thousands and thousands of pounds, special care needed all the time, a lot of medication given to her that was costing a lot of money. And she's cost the NHS literally nothing in 3.5 years. So I'm not asking for a monetary point of view. It's for a safety point of view for our children that we must have these NHS prescriptions. So I myself will continue to do what I've always done, which is to use the Bedrolite and fight for Indy to have it on prescription, because it is the best thing for her and it's the best thing for her future at the moment. Ollie knows that I started my own brand about a year ago.
Oh.
I had
Plug your brand.
I'm not good at that,
CBD. It's the best CBD. It's made with love. It's made with care. It's made with heart and soul. Support her.
That'd be great.
So basically what I did was I got to the point where I was talking to a lot of other families who had sick children, and I was pointing them in directions of how they could access medicinal cannabis via the private sector, and how they could access it via, which companies I felt were good, which companies that I had used, I potentially had their oils tested. I knew they were legitimate companies. So I was doing this sort of like on a regular basis, and I started to think to myself, like, you know how to make products. And if you do it, you know that the labeling is going to be correct. You know that everything about it is going to be exactly how you want it, so that you know that if that goes to one of these children whose parents are contacting you, you have certificates and you have all these things to put in place to ensure that people can have access, not necessarily through the private sector, but there is a more affordable route of access to see if it will help. And if it does help and they want to further themselves to getting prescriptions, then that they can do that. And that's where I want to lead people into being healthier, being better. And, I started my own brand, and so I started making lots of different products basically. And I launched my website in November, and I'm really looking forward to the products going out to people. And I get some great feedback from other parents, but feedback also from the wellness sector. It seemed sensible for me to continue in this industry, but maybe in a way that I felt I could help better. I can write as many government letters to my MP and to the government and to doctors and stuff, but that's really not what I'm hugely good at. I'm much better at creating and formulating products for people and talking to people. It's Sweet Pink CBD.
Sweet Pink, of course it is. Sweet Pink CBD. It's sweet.
It's all inspired by Indy Rose. The oil that we actually first created, which was the first product, was as close a replica to Bedrolite as we could, so that in a legal sense, so we don't have the amount of THC in there, but as close. We wanted to try and provide what we could in this country for people that I believed would help.
So I've got to drill down a little bit here, because once again, I get confused. Why is it legal for you to have your products out there helping other parents? What's the difference? What am I missing?
Because my products come within legal guidelines of how much THC is allowed in them, and that is ultimately at the moment the only, obviously we've got novel foods coming up, but ultimately the only issue had been for some time was the levels of THC. So in Ollie's products, my products, and the things you write on the labels and stuff.
So as soon as a product is a medicinal product, okay, so for example, you have muscle inflammations, okay, and you go to a doctor, he will prescribe you ibuprofen. All right. Now, that ibuprofen is exactly the same as the ibuprofen you'll buy from the shop, but it's a prescription, so it comes at a different price, etc., etc., etc. But that prescription means that ibuprofen is taken for a purpose. It's like cause effect type thing. It creates this partnership between a problem and a solution, and creating that partnership between a problem and a solution is what they call marketing authorization. Now, marketing authorization is something which has been set out by the MHRA, the Medical Healthcare Regulatory Authority. So in order for me to turn around and say CBD cures arthritis, or CBD is a valid treatment for anxiety, you need to have marketing authorization. Hence why I always say, CBD works for me, try it. It might work for you, it might not. Because the fact of the matter is I'm actually not a doctor. don't know who's listening, don't know if it's going to work for them. I believe it will because of my personal journey and my personal experiences, but I can't turn around and say, you've got anxiety, you need X amount of CBD dosed at this amount on a daily basis, and that's what you need, and this is your prescription. So that process of attaching a medical analysis to what a product can do is illegal. Now, what Tanine buys is for her daughter's epilepsy. She doesn't buy a CBD oil for no reason. It's not a private prescription for whatever Tanine wants. It's a private prescription for Bedrocan for epilepsy. And it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically it creates this chain, and that chain is marketing authorization, and that chain is the most illegal thing anyone in the industry can talk about. So when you walk into a CBD shop and the person behind the counter saying to you, this can do this and this can do this, and if you have a headache, this is what you need, and they're playing pharmacy, which isn't the right thing to do. And they're playing pharmacy without an actual understanding of how that product was originally created. Loads of different compounds can be used for loads of different purposes. There's an incredible plant out there called moringa. It's one of the best anti-inflammatory plants on the planet. There's a product called copaiba. It's another extremely anti-convulsant plant, very, very, very good for epilepsy. But if you were to provide it as an epileptic cure, you will go to jail for making marketing authorization. So that's why over the course of this show, I've been very, very, very careful to not throw myself under a bus by giving you a potential, by giving a...
Yeah, this is where I get so lost, and I get so upset for Tanine and all other mums and dads like Tanine who are going through a living hell. Let's be honest.
Literally a living hell. And the thing is, there's no end in sight.
Poor kids, it's your worst nightmare. You would rather something happen to you than any of your kids, even when they drive you mad. So what I don't understand is this. You say, I'm going to make this product for X. X. I understand there's cause and effect. There's a link. So I just get so lost and kind of angry that Tanine isn't able to go to Ollie and say, I need this. And he writes on the label, this is for Indy for her convulsions. Boom. That's
mental, isn't it?
See,
but then also, to be honest with you, from the other perspective, I don't actually know what Indy needs as an epileptic medication. So as someone who designs products, because of the effect of the minor cannabinoids, the terpenes, the lipids, the fats, and the fact that every individual is exactly that, an individual, and every product is, through the mystics of karma, good for some people and bad for other people. Do you mean I am not in a position to make those medicinal, because like with you when you had the sleep issues, I said, try it. If it helps you get to sleep, it works. If it takes 3 drops and you go to sleep, it's worked. If you don't, then it hasn't. Do you know what I mean? Okay. But I mean, like it's all part of it's like, unfortunately, we have to play a guessing game. As an individual, I haven't got the time, the money, or the layout to run a research, campaign. I don't have that. I don't have 50,000 patients to be able to roll out a product to be able to see if that product works equally across them. I understand why the rules are in place. I personally think that they're very good. I just don't think we're acting on them in the UK. You have Project 21, which, what's it called? Tony mentioned last week. That's where he now gets his meds from. Guy called Professor Nutt. Absolute legend. Wherever you are, we worship you. You're incredible. Okay. And then you have a couple of these private medical clinics, which basically they're just brokers. They'll buy products from farms and manufacturers around the world and distribute them to parents as a potential cure, but you don't really know. The only people who really know are people who have been through the system, like Tanine, who know that Bedrocan works, and they know that Epidiolex doesn't work. And I mentioned this potential, like I read online, there's a lot of the Bedrocan patients are moving towards this new Israeli product, which is a third of the price. And I brought it up to Tanine, and she was like, she can't take the risk. She can't take the risk of literally saying, you know what, actually, let's dump what works and try something new, because you don't know. You don't know. But
it's also interesting that you were speaking earlier, Ollie, about people being, other people's medication being brought in still, and there being no issue with it. If you actually look into the NICE guidelines, the they specifically state in one section that if somebody is taking it, and this is for epilepsy, if somebody is taking an anticonvulsant and it is working for them, that the doctor should do it in whatever means possible, even if that product becomes unlicensed or unaccessible within that country, that the doctor should do whatever possible to obtain it rather than changing. So there are guidelines in place, but it seems that these guidelines are completely ignored when it comes to cannabis.
It's just extraordinary. You know, when I started this, I hate the word journey. It always reminds me of X Factor and some idiot saying I've been on a journey. But when I started this journey with Ollie, you know, I had my preconceptions of how the show might run, and
it's awesome, isn't it? It's such a good show. I have so much fun on this show.
But I realized none of it was correct. And I never thought I would be feeling, and I'll be quite honest about it, I've been in this game a long time, but so emotional, listening to what you're saying and sharing your frustration. And of course,
and it does get to you after, you know, the amount of years that you continually fight. I mean, I remember at one point, when it comes to doing media, so something might come out, and then you're asked to do media stories about cannabis, and it's constant. It's like every single day, sometimes for a period of time, and that's work in itself. But you've still got a disabled child to look after, and you still have to go to work yourself, and so it is like just an actual uphill battle for all of these parents to get access. And I can quite believe there are many parents out there that are sitting there now with disabled children that just physically can't. Just think to themselves, I just can't do that. I'm not strong enough. I can't do it.
No, I get
yeah.
it.
And that's why it's not acceptable.
I haven't got the energy. I haven't got the strength. I haven't got the mental energy to do this.
Where am I supposed to start? That's what I'm thinking. If I was a parent, where am I supposed to start? And this is as a parent who's got a similar sort of brain to you.
Panic for a moment, and then I'd be logical. But Tanine, I've got to ask you, because it goes to the ethos of men's radio station and women's radio station. It's all about mental health and well-being. Where do you, if you don't mind me asking, where do you get your strength from?
Various different places, I suppose. But I feel very confident in the fact that Indy's life has purpose. She has a lot of purpose, and I believe that I was, you know, gifted Indy to help the greater good in whatever way I can, and that's why I talk about cannabis in the way that I do, and that's why I'm sitting in my office at 5 to 7 at night. I'm not putting my children to bed tonight, because there is a greater good to this, and that is that the children, and many adults as well, but my predominant issue is children that are suffering with epilepsy. Obviously, they work, you know, if I continue to keep putting the word out there and keep being strong that this won't continue, and that this route of access in a few years will be normal, and hopefully people will look to Indy and be grateful of the suffering that she's had to go through to maybe have some relief. But I'm very comfortable with the way Indy is, and she's a beautiful little girl. If I could take all of her suffering away, I would, but you know, she has her purpose here on earth at this time. So I'm very comfortable with it. I have my moments, don't get me wrong, but generally I just want to see people have better access and people be better. So
since we started these radio stations, women's radio in 2018, men's radio in January 2019, I have never met ever in my working life such a group of completely disparate but extraordinary, exemplary, and inspirational people. It's just every day. It's like you think they're not going to be any good, and it's so sobering having these conversations, because opens a door onto an area that you know nothing about. You think, oh my God.
Russ, I'm sure you've heard this before. I'm sure you've heard this saying, you know, some people are born great, some people achieve greatness, and some people have greatness thrust upon them. Now, I was speaking to Sanine earlier this week. Everyone who I've met in the industry, all right, everyone I've met in the industry, I don't think there's anyone who is built for this job better than Tanine. And I said to her on the phone, I was like, I don't want to be saying that, you know, you deserve this. Not you deserve this, but there's no one else out there who will be able to give to this cause what you can give. They don't have the brain. They don't have the ability to understand the way the product works. The one thing which I always, you know, admired about you is, like me, everything's mathematical. and your mathematical analysis of, well, what Indy is going through and the products you need to give her separate you from a lot of other people who just see it as a product. It's not just X, it's Z plus Y times by Q over R equals X. And it's knowing that equation before. And I really do believe in my heart of heart that, you know, this journey which you're on, no one else would be able to do. And I really believe that you're going to do something amazing for your daughter and for every other kid out there, because no one else can do it.
And you know what? And maybe just as we wind up, maybe one day it'll be Indy's Law. That will be the legacy. I want to say a huge thank you on behalf of Men's Radio to Janine Montgomery.
Thank you.
Ollie, as always, it's a pleasure.
A pleasure.
Till next week, God bless. Bye.
Bye, guys.